Kamala Harris is basically in bed with the teachers unions. She's owned by the teachers unions. And so Randi Weingarten just wanted to portray to her members, and she hit on it towards the end, that, look, the media will jump on this. She wants the media to see that they're in total lockstep with teachers unions, because she just wants to help Kamala Harris get elected. I mean, these aren't educational institutions. You go and look at their resolutions. They don't really care. They're not like trying to figure out how to teach kids how to read. It's all political garbage that they pass at these conventions. Yeah. And in fact, the NEA, Becky's union, in 2019, they had a resolution up for a vote to rededicate the NEA union to be about student learning and academic success. They voted against that resolution.
Welcome to the Michele Tafoya podcast.
Corey DeAngelis is a libertarian. He is all about school choice, as am I. And you're going to find out why. And we're going to peel back the curtain on some of these teachers' unions meetings that you may never have seen before. Oh, are you in for some entertainment? If you haven't seen these clips, you might not believe your eyes and ears, but they are real, and you want to see them, and you want to hear from Corey. And that starts right after this. Economists are warning us about massive tax hikes that could hit your IRA and 401k hard. With inflation rising and global uncertainty, it's no wonder central banks and many Americans are turning to gold. If you haven't thought about gold yet, now is the time. Trust Priority Gold to help you diversify your savings with gold and silver. Text GOLDEN, GOLDEN, to 800-405-GOLD for a free gold info guide and see if you qualify for free shipping and storage. Experts agree physical gold is one of the best ways to fortify your savings. Act now to get your portfolio working for you while the market is golden. Text GOLDEN to 800-405-GOLD to learn more. That's GOLDEN to 800-405-GOLD. Corey DeAngelis, great to have you join us. I think education is high on the minds of some as we look forward to this 2024 election. It certainly is for me, but I don't know, where does it rank? You know, you talk about the economy, we talk about immigration, abortion is always up there on the left. So where does education really hit home for people?
Well, it typically ranks lower on the totem pole of things that people care about when they go to the voting box. But that changes when politicians change how they talk about things. So think about the Virginia gubernatorial election in 2021. Education was the number 2 issue in that race, second to only jobs in the economy. And Glenn Youngkin, the Republican, won on the issue of parental rights and education by 6 points with education voters. Again, that was the number 2 issue in that election, but that's because Terry McAuliffe at the last debate, he was the Democrat that was basically an incumbent, the former governor of the state that apparently went 10 points to Biden the year before. He said, I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach on the final debate stage. That blew up in his face. And so we could see some of that dynamic play out here. We have Kamala Harris, who's against school choice. She's been shown in videos saying that she doesn't think that that she believes that it's our children, that it's society's children, which is it's this communist gobbledygook that you believe that the kids belong to the government and not their families. And Trump is the leader of the Parents Party. He's pushing for universal school choice. He wants the federal government, the Department of Education, to be abolished and for parents to direct the upbringing of their children.
Yeah, I think it worked so effectively for Glenn Youngkin in that state of Virginia. It became a very local, centralized issue. Maybe nationally people don't see it the same way, but I'm with you. And I think this should be brought up because of what you just said about Kamala Harris. The kids are our kids? No, my kids are not her kids. They're not anyone's kids except for mine. They will be productive members of society, but that doesn't make them your kids or any part of your family. It's you're right. It's this weird, I don't know if you want to call it communist or Marxist ethos about everyone belonging to this same, no, we don't, because we don't all share the same values, Corey.
That's right. And with school choice, having the money follow the child, people can choose for their own children. That's The main disagreement comes because you have a special interest, the teachers unions, controlling the minds of other people's children. The only reason why you have Democrats voting against school choice is because they're a wholly owned subsidiary of the teachers unions. You think about Randi Weingarten's union, Becky Pringle's union, the AFT and the NEA, the two largest teachers union in the country. About 99.9% of their campaign contributions go to Democrats each cycle. It's a money laundering operation. It ought to be illegal, but that explains why Democrats have a hard time listening to parents, because they care more about the special interests who control them. But thankfully, that dynamic is starting to shift, at least at the state level, where you have the Republicans winning on the issue, people like Terry McAuliffe losing, and some Democrats scratching their heads saying, well, maybe I should listen to the kids union, the parents, for once.
The kids union. I love it. Well, just to show how threatened they are, at this recent AFT convention, Randi Weingarten posted a photo while she was speaking of all the threats she felt. And you were among those threats that she posted on this big, screen behind her. What did that? I would imagine you're flattered by that, because if you're making that much noise that she feels you're a threat, you must be doing something right.
Right. She listed me as one of her three primary threats. It was me, Chris Rufo, and Betsy DeVos. But look, if you're catching flack, that means you're probably over the target. It's because they're losing control over the minds of other people's children. Over the past 3 years, we've had more advancements on school choice than in the preceding 3 decades. And it's Randi Weingarten's fault. She fought to keep the schools closed. She lobbied the CDC to do so. She threatened strikes in 2020 over school reopenings, and they showed families what was happening in the classroom. So I actually dedicated my book, The Parent Revolution, to Randi Weingarten and the teachers unions for overplaying their hand and inadvertently doing more to advance school choice and homeschooling than anyone could have ever imagined. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Families got to see through Zoom school the indoctrination that was happening in the classroom that mobilized parents to push back at school board meetings, but also at the ballot box, and to push for school choice. And we've had 12 states pass universal school choice in the past 3 years alone. It's a lot of winning. We're winning so much, I'm almost getting tired of winning.
I've heard that phrase before. Not quite yet.
We're not done yet.
Well, we've got the AFT, American Federation of Teachers, and the NEA, the National Education Association, correct? How are they different, and why are there two massive teachers unions?
I mean, well, one, the NEA is the only labor union that has a federal charter. I'm not sure why any teachers unions or any union at all should have the backing of the federal government. It's insane. The NEA is the larger teachers union. They have about 3 million members. The AFT, Randi Weingarten's union, is a little bit smaller, but it's the second largest with almost 2 million members. And so they have a lot of sway politically. They have boots on the ground, but they also have a lot of funding that they basically extort from taxpayers and funnel back to Democrat campaign coffers. So again, the teachers unions are an arm of the Democrat Party, and it's an incestuous relationship between the Democrat Party and the teachers unions. And they fight for the same things, though. They're basically one and the same. They both fought to keep the schools closed as long as possible. They held children's education hostage to secure billions of dollars in ransom payments from taxpayers. They knew they could leverage the closures and say, well, we're closed because we need more money. And they do that they've done that everywhere. And some of their local affiliates even called for things that had nothing to do with reopening the schools, like Los Angeles Teachers Union. They were calling for Medicare for all, a wealth tax, police-free schools, a ban on charter schools, things that had nothing to do with reopening schools. It was so ridiculous. They showed their true colors, and now, thankfully, their plan backfired because parents are upset. And, for a long time, the teachers unions told parents, if you're not happy, guess what? We're super accountable. We have democratic accountability. You can show up at the school board meetings. We'll listen to you. Did that really work out? No, it didn't, because when families showed up at the school board meetings, they're like, oh, this is what we're supposed to do, right? They had their mics cut off. They were labeled as domestic terrorists. The National School Boards Association sent a letter to Biden saying that parents should be investigated for quote unquote domestic terrorism under the Patriot Act. An earlier memo draft of that letter that went to the Biden administration, not a lot of people remember this part, is that they actually called for the military and the National Guard to be deployed to school board meetings to try to bully and silence parents into submission. They wanted parents to sit down and shut up. Their form of accountability just really blew up in their face because a lot of people saw it as a fraud. And now families want true accountability, bottom up, being able to vote with their feet to schools that align with their values, which will give it a competitive incentive for the public schools to do a better job. It's a rising tide that lifts all boats. If you have the money, if you can take it with you to go somewhere else, which it's your child's education dollars, you should be able to do that. The public schools will say, hey, well, maybe we shouldn't cut off your mic. Maybe we should respect you when you complain about something. And then they do a better job. And we have tons of evidence of this as well, that the public schools improve in response to competition.
Gee, what a shocking notion, I want to tell you a quick story about my mom as a public school teacher. And when she went to the California Teachers Union meeting up in Sacramento, you have very few memories of your childhood that stick in your brain. So I'm amazed that this one sticks in my brain. I'm going to tell you in a second. With the volatility from this election and our national debt just breaking $35 trillion for the first time ever, there's never been a better time than right now to consider what is the best way to protect your savings. So many are concerned, including me, that if this election goes sideways, things are going to get even worse. The good news is there is something you can do now ahead of whatever future chaos might be coming. Wealth Protection Research has amazing partners that specialize in helping everyday Americans protect their retirement accounts like 401ks, IRAs, or TSPs using a loophole that allows them to convert into physical gold or silver tax and penalty free. Find out more when you text FREEDOM to 76626 right now. That's right. You can break free from your captive retirement account and enjoy the peace of mind knowing your retirement savings are now stored and in your control. If you're interested in protecting your retirement with gold and silver, you can get a free investment kit texting FREEDOM to 76626. Text FREEDOM to 76626. Okay, so for some reason, this, Corey, has stayed with me. My mom was a school teacher. I admired the hell out of her. She taught junior high and high school Spanish and math, and very often a substitute teacher who was put through some hell with, when you're a substitute teacher. But my mom was my hero. And I remember that she went up to Sacramento, California to participate in a teachers union meeting. And when she came back, she did not look happy. And my mom always looked happy. She was known for her smile. May she rest in peace. She did not look happy. And she said, I couldn't get approval for a map of Latin America in my Spanish class. And the way that the politicians and the teachers union representatives were talking to each other, it was like they were best friends, and what the real goals were didn't matter. She was so disillusioned after that. And I've remembered that. And this was, years and years and years ago, but it stands out to me. And I remember it coloring my view of this whole system. So that was kind of my first inclination. But let's pull back. I know on your phone, let's pull back the curtain on Randi Weingarten, the president of the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers. She spoke at their recent convention, and she went a little great. Let's play something. Corey, would you play that for us?
Yeah, actually, I have it on my phone. I have it on my Twitter.
When the history books are written about this moment, let them record that we the people, united, mobilized, and voted down this existential threat to democracy and freedom, that we continued the march for progress, that we laid the foundation for a better future, and that we sought to create a more perfect union. Progress is possible. Keep marching.
Oh, what was that last part she said before keep marching?
We got to march for progress. I don't know. It's just a whole bunch of, their usual buzzwords. But I think she starts crying at the end of that too. If you zoom into the picture, you'll see like she gets like this. I don't know if
she closes her eyes a lot.
Drama teacher.
Yeah, I think she's trying to project a certain amount of passion, which is fine if your passion is placed in the right place. But I'm not sure that a teachers union head, who I think spent a grand total of 1 year in the classroom as a teacher herself. Yes. She's more of an organizer. She's more of if you had a couple words to describe Randi Weingarten, what would they be? I mean, objectively, not crazy, but just sort of objectively speaking, is she socialist? Is she a Marxist? What is she?
Yeah, she's a socialist who wants to control the minds of other people's children, but she's also an unhinged lunatic, as you saw in that video. But she's also a coward. I mean, you look on social media, she closes her replies like she closed the schools on her X account. Like no one can respond to her because she knows that anything she says, she'll get ratioed into oblivion. In fact, before she started closing her replies, she actually went before Congress and gaslighted the American public. It was a testimony on the school reopenings and how the teachers unions blocked the schools from reopening. And she went there and tried to tell everybody with a straight face that, well, we weren't fighting to close the schools. In fact, we were fighting to open them starting in April of 2020. She got hit with a community note fact check on all of her tweets for several days in a row because, on Twitter, now X, you can pin your tweet that you like the most. She was doing that, saying Republicans were lying about me. I actually did fight to open the schools. She'd get hit with the fact check. She changed her pin tweet the next day to basically the same thing to try to avoid the community note. And they just kept coming after her because, look, we all saw it with our own eyes. The private schools were open. They didn't have a problem. And if you were fighting to open the schools so hard, why were you lobbying to keep them closed with the CDC? Why were you threatening strikes? Why weren't you open? If anything, it shows that you guys are extremely incompetent. It's like the only profession that did this, where you had people rioting in the streets with fake body bags outside of the public school offices. They had coffins and tombstones. Nobody else did this. Did the grocery store workers do this? Did the private school employees do this? No, and I don't blame the employees themselves. I blame the incentives that are baked into the government school monopoly, where you get your same benefits whether you go to work or not. And it was actually worse than that. They didn't just keep their jobs and their pay without going to work. They were actually able to profit from keeping the schools closed because they could use those closures and say, look, it's because we need more money again. Yes. They got $190 billion in so-called COVID relief since March of 2020. It was a total scam, and the taxpayers got ripped off. And more importantly, parents got the short end of the stick. They were screwed. They had to try to fight to put funds together to send their kids to private school while they were still paying for the government schools. Or you had some families kind of doing this pandemic pod thing, which actually worked out. And now homeschooling has doubled since pre-pandemic levels.
Isn't that crazy? It's amazing to see that, and these micro schools and pods and the like, and power to the parents. That's what I say. And all of these school boards and decisions being made around children by the government, like if your kid wants to change pronouns at school, we don't have to tell the parents. Wait a minute. I mean, this, folks, we cannot forget this stuff. And this is the Democrat Party at work. They are the ones that they're against school choice because they get all of this money from teachers unions. And if you thought Randi Weingarten was a little crazy, wait till we show you Becky Pringle. That's next. I love the folks at besthotgrill.com. They make the incredible Solaire infrared grills that, the ones I've been telling you about, they heat up in just 3 minutes to searing heat, and they make the juiciest grill food you will ever taste. But rather than take my word for it, why don't you try before you buy with the Solaire demo rental program? For just $47, you can use a Solaire infrared grill for 2 weekends and the week in between without a salesman breathing down your neck. You can test its versatility with steak, chicken, burgers, fish, pork, veggies. I hear some people even grill pineapple. All the foods that your family enjoys. Inspect Solaire's quality construction and experience firsthand Solaire's hot and fast performance. At the end of the demo, just wipe it off and put it in the box for a UPS pickup. Solaire makes it super easy, and then you'll get a coupon for $47 off any new Solaire infrared grill. The Solaire demo rental program will convince you why Solaire is truly the last grill you'll ever buy. Learn more about the demo program and these amazing USA-made grills at besthotgrill.com. That's besthotgrill.com. Solaire Demo Rental Program at besthotgrill.com. Okay, so Rebecca Pringle, everyone calls her Becky. She is the head of the NEA, and I've got her here on tape. So let's roll a little bit of her, shall we?
NEA delegates, we can do this work. We must do this work. We get to do this work. We will do this work because our students are depending on us to win all the things. NEA, we have to win all the things. All the things. All the things. Our colleagues are depending on us to win all the things. Keep going, NEA. To preserve our democracy, we must win all the things. Delegates, we won't go back. We will keep going forward because we are the NEA. We are the NEA. We are the NEA. And that's what we do.
I'm not sure if anything actually was... Here's what I know from that statement. All of the things.
Yep.
We are the NEA.
Yep.
And we will go forward. That's all that
She
I
just
heard.
kept repeating the same thing over and over again. It's like a kid. It's like a kid trying to finish their assignment that has like a minimum word count of 1,000 words, and it's like,
right.
Oh crap, what do I say now? I'm just going to rewrite the same thing over and over. But she basically told us nothing except for they want everything from you. They've already taken everything from us. We've already given them tons of money. And they've already taken our kids away from us. So what are they actually fighting for? They're not fighting for better proficiency rates. I mean, we have a quarter of kids proficient in academic outcomes in the U.S., and we spend so much money. We spend $20,000 per kid per year nationwide on average in the government-run schools. Average private school tuition is only about $12,000 or $13,000 per student per year. It's a lot less. So we're not getting our money's worth in the government schools. And this isn't the first time that Becky's done this. In her same conference that they did last year, the same kind of Dwight Schrute-like, pounding on the table. It's just, someone did a nice video mashup of like Dwight Schrute hitting the table from The Office and then Becky Pringle, and then they go back to Dwight. It was hilarious because that's exactly what she looked like. And Dwight Schrute was basically getting his notes from Benito Mussolini, a dictator. So,
wow. So you can make the inference.
Do you want lunatics like this raising your kids or teaching them at school for 13 years of their lives for 7 hours a day? No. And if you don't, you should fight for school choice to get your kids away from people like Becky Pringle and Randi Weingarten.
I have long been a proponent of school choice. Like I said, Mom was a public school teacher. I was entirely educated in the public school system. I got my master's in business at a private school, but that was my own choice, and I paid dearly for it. But yeah, this notion that there is a one-size-fits-all education that should be decided by politicians, really, if the NEA is a government-subsidized or government-backed union, then the government has a lot of say in what the NEA does, what gets taught in these public government schools, and that should start to open your eyes, because I'm not convinced anymore, Corey, that the federal government has everyone's best interest in mind.
No, and it's having the Department of Education at the federal level is a violation of the 10th Amendment. The word education is not included in the Constitution, so it's unconstitutional. It should have never been born. It was created in 1979 by Jimmy Carter as a payoff to the NEA, of all places, the payoff to the teachers union. And we haven't been able to get rid of it since, but hopefully Trump says he wants to get rid of it. He also said that he'd put a libertarian in the cabinet. He can check the box with me and I can fire myself on the first day and get rid of the department. Anyway, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. But we don't have a lot, you can't just snap your fingers as the Department of Education secretary and eliminate it. It requires an act of Congress. And so maybe if Republicans take both chambers, that might happen at some point. But and chances are looking okay for that actually happening. And so we would have to have Trump in the White House as well. But Yeah, the NEA and Randi Weingarten's union, they have just had provided free advertising for homeschooling and school choice like we've never seen before over the past few years. And look, we don't structure anything else in society this way. Even when we're talking about other types of taxpayer funded initiatives, if you think about college, we have Pell Grants where the money follows the child. You can choose which or student, you can choose the college or university that you attend. You can take your Pell Grant funding to a religious university if you wanted to. Same thing with pre-K programs. You can take the funding to any provider of pre-K you want, religious or not, when it comes to pre-K. And Democrats are all on board with those kinds of programs. When it comes to the in-between years of K-12 education, they freak out about it because it's all about power. It has nothing to do with logic. It's because there's a special interest that is threatened by choice when it comes to K-12. That is the teachers' unions. So they fight as hard as possible against any change to the status quo. And I will say, we're not arguing against teachers themselves.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, your mom. My mom was in the public school system for a very long time as a teacher. I attended public schools all through K-12 education. But the teachers' unions don't fight for things that actually benefit the best teachers. They protect the lowest common denominator. The money doesn't go to the classroom. It goes to people like Randi and Becky who make over $500,000 a year.
Ugh.
Teacher salaries have been flat over time, whereas spending has gone up. And it's because they're advocating for a monopoly and they just want more power. They don't care about the teachers in the system.
Something is very, very wrong with this picture. And it's okay, ladies and gentlemen, particularly if your parents or grandparents, aunts or uncles, whatever role you have. Corey's just expecting his first child, so he's not even a parent yet, and he understands this. It's okay to question what the hell is going on in public schools. Take it from the daughter of a public school teacher. It doesn't make me an expert. That's why I'm having Corey here, but I've got eyes and I'm a parent. And I chose private school for my kids. And so there you go. Quick break. I want to bring this little triangulation to the picture. The DNC, the Democrat National Convention, is going to be in Chicago. The mayor of Chicago is a guy named Brandon Johnson, who hasn't been doing a real good job. But Randi Weingarten had him speak to her convention. We're going to show you that little mashup next. Are you feeling overwhelmed by the increasing cost of health insurance? Have you had enough of not having control over your healthcare dollars? Introducing ShareRight, healthcare done the right way. At ShareRight, you're not just a number. You're part of a caring community. And forget about paying excessive premiums. With ShareRight, you stand to save 30 to 50% compared to health insurance. Think about what you could do with all those savings. But it's more than just savings. ShareRight ensures you have access to the care you deserve precisely when you need it. From routine checkups to unexpected emergencies, with ShareRight, your healthcare is our top priority. Empower yourself today by taking control of your healthcare costs. Visit shareright.org/Tafoya, Tafoya, to learn more and see how much you can save. Visit shareright.org/Tafoya. That's SHARERIGHT.org, shareright.org/Tafoya, Tafoya, for healthcare done the right way.
Yes, yes. I can hear a little alcohol in the air. It just feels like 8th period on the last day of school in here. Just working on that in your union contract so you don't got to sneak it out of your desk.
Well, that's so interesting, Corey. I'm sure he was kidding about the union contracts, but what do we know about Mayor Brandon Johnson? And Chicago is a massive school district that I don't think is being particularly well served.
They're not doing well. You have about 55 of their public schools with 0% proficiency rates. Not a single kid proficient in math or reading in dozens of their schools in Chicago. And it's not a money issue. They spend about $30,000 per student per year in the Chicago failure factories that they call schools. And the Chicago Teachers Union boss, Stacey Davis Gates, she knows their failure factories firsthand, and she sends her own kid to a private school, a Catholic school, after she called school choice racist just a year ago. I mean, total hypocrisy on full display. But Mayor Johnson doesn't get to joke like this about this because it's too close to home. It's things that might actually be happening in the school system. I mean, when you look at their outcomes, when you look at the waste and horrible academic outcomes when it comes to the government schools in Chicago. And so, a lot of people were saying, oh, maybe he was joking, but he also was a Chicago Teachers Union organizer before he became mayor.
It's when I hear about these percentages and these the standards that we are just dropping to the floor and allowing other countries to surpass us in education, which is really the future of these kids. It sickens me for every child. It sickens me for every child. I live in Minnesota. I live in the Twin Cities, where in Minneapolis, the academic achievement gap is enormous. And it excuse my language, everyone, it pisses me off because these kids have every right to learn. And Corey, another quick anecdote. I tried to become a reading tutor through an organization in town, and I had to go through a 90-minute training. And all the training was about how the reason that kids can't read is because kids of color are treated badly. There's systemic racism in the classroom and in the schools, and that I had to learn my implicit biases if I wanted to participate. And I had to yada, 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 yada. It went on and on. I couldn't take it. So I've got to find another place where I can go tutor kids to read, because all I want for every child in America is for them to be able to access information, read, do math at a proficiency that helps them and gives them heart and inspiration and it empowers them to go do things that they want and need to do to be productive adults. Good God.
Yeah, and the government school system just wants to blame everything else. It doesn't want to blame itself for its failures.
Correct.
And that's why they continue to fail over and over again. They just ask for more money. It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. But when you have school choice, it forces them to up their game. And guess what? It's also an equalizer. The most advantaged already have school choice in a sense. They can afford to pay twice, essentially, once
Correct.
for the public school that they're not using through taxes, and then again out of pocket. And so when you have the money follow the child, even if it's just a fraction of what would have been spent in the government schools, you could actually expand educational opportunity to families who didn't have it before. And so what's interesting to me is you have the left calling everything they don't like systemic racism, but then they don't bring that same energy to the government school system. We have disproportionate outcomes by race and income, and they don't fight against that because that is a system that is benefiting a group that donates to Democrats. And so they don't want to have that conversation.
No, they don't want to fix the problem because then they would have to stop fundraising. It's the same with most problems that politicians glom onto. They don't want to fix them because they are beautiful for fundraising. The existence of those problems helps them earn money and stay in power. I shouldn't say earn money. Helps them get donations so they can stay in power. We see this in so many areas of society. It sickens me. One more soundbite, and this is Randi Weingarten letting the convention know that Kamala Harris is going to be coming to speak to them. And I'd like you to pay attention again to the passion on her face as she implores her members to be kind to the candidate for president. Go ahead and roll this, John.
She is our guest. I'm asking all of us to honor the rules that they have asked us to honor, or they will institute. But I'm asking all of us to use our moral obligation to each other to not protest inside the hall. I can't force you. I can just ask you. And I'm asking us. This is the first female African-American AAPI candidate for the presidency of the United States. Even if we disagree with something that she says, Let's remember the press in the United States, that they will zero in on the disagreement instead of the broad swath of agreement there is. Let's do for this moment, I'm asking you, let us morally support our sister as she is in the hall tomorrow.
Okay. So she's the first female African-American AAPI, which is Asian American Pacific Islander, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we should support.
Such
She's
a great
our sister.
argument that had nothing to do with policies, but I mean, it is true that Kamala Harris is basically in bed with the teachers unions. She's owned by the teachers unions. And so Randi Weingarten just wanted to portray to her members, and she hit on it towards the end, that, look, the media will jump on this. She wants the media to see that they're in total lockstep with teachers unions, because she just wants to help Kamala Harris get elected. I mean, these aren't educational institutions. You go and look at their resolutions. They don't really care. They're not like trying to figure out how to teach kids how to read. It's all political garbage that they pass at these conventions. Yeah. And in fact, the NEA, Becky's union, in 2019, they used to post these online, but then they started to figure out, well, again, like people like me and others were reporting on what they were actually passing. In 2019, they had a resolution up for a vote to rededicate the NEA union to be about student learning and academic success. They voted against that resolution. They let the whole world know they don't care about student learning. So even if they did pass it, we would all know it was a bunch of BS, but they voted it down. And then they vote for they voted for creating opposition research for people who don't like critical race theory in public schools. They were dedicating tons of money to that. There was some, Israel type of resolutions as well, but things that it's all political resolutions. It's not educational resolutions. So when families got to see what was happening through Zoom school, it shouldn't surprise us all that much anymore to see that these are institutions of indoctrination as opposed to education.
Yeah, I don't think there should be any question about that anymore. So people understand a couple things. One, not all teachers are villains. We are not saying that. I'm the daughter of one. I know many teachers whom I love. This is not about teachers. This is about the unions that control so much of what your kids learn or don't learn in public government-run schools. Open your eyes to the idea of school choice. It is not anti-public school. In fact, public schools would probably improve in order to compete with the fact that you get to choose, just like you get to choose what car you buy, what groceries you prefer, what toothpaste you like. You don't think Colgate and Crest are going at it every single day? Why shouldn't the schools? So last thing for you, Corey, you're about to have your first child, and congratulations. Can you, in a quick sort of nutshell, tell us how, before you've even had kids, you became so invested in education?
I actually started as a researcher. I did my PhD in education policy at the University of Arkansas. And my first study there linked the Milwaukee private school choice program that started in 1990 to a long-term outcome, which was crime reduction. It was one of the first studies to actually look at this relationship. Getting a better education, lo and behold, led to a lower likelihood of committing criminal activity as an adult. So that's a peer-reviewed study. It's in a journal now. And so I started to really look at how these types of programs could benefit you in actually non-academic ways. So crime reduction, reducing teenage pregnancies, and improving mental health, and increasing your civic engagement, and things like that. So I started to figure out really quickly, though, that the university system was not for me. Academia was not filled with peer reviewers. It was more like my enemies reviewing my work. And because 99% of the people in education academia are far left Marxists who just disagree with my policy proposals and theories. And so I went into the think tank world pretty quickly, and now I'm at the American Federation for Children. But I also attended government schools all through K through 12. In high school, I had my first experience with school choice. I went to something called a magnet school. It's still run by the district, but you can choose it. They can have their admissions policies that they'd like. You're not assigned to a magnet school. That was a good opportunity for me. And I think other families should have opportunities too, but it shouldn't be restricted to schools that happen to be run by the government. You should be able to take your kids' education dollars to the public, private, charter, or home-based education option that works best for you. And then I also got into this as a libertarian. And this is the segment of society where the government controls a very important aspect of the future of our country, which is shaping the minds of future voters. And they can have 50 million kids going through the system each year, where they're going through government schools, learning that big government is the solution to all their problems. And they're going to vote to regulate things in the future. They're going to vote to raise your taxes in the future. The best way to strike at the root of the problem, to fight against the leftward drift of the country, is not just by having more kids. That certainly helps, but you can't win this war just by outpopulating the other side, because they have so many kids that they are indoctrinating for years. And those people go and vote for their preferred policies. So we have to strike at the root. The best way to do so is to have the money follow the child, so parents can choose schools that are aligned with their values, not the far left socialist values to control the teachers unions and ultimately the government school system.
Go ahead and hold up your book one more time. Let's give that a plug, because I want people to know that they can read all about this and more. The Parent Revolution. He is Corey DeAngelis. I always say, be brave, do good. He does that every day. He backs up everything he says with his work. Corey, great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Michele.